What if we've been looking at dementia all wrong? What if it's not just some unavoidable part of getting older, not just bad luck or something in our genes? What if it's actually a disease of starvation, where the most important organ in our body is literally screaming for a type of fuel it's been denied for decades? Let's dig into that idea.
And that brings us to a really tough question. For about half a century now, most of us have been trying to follow the same basic rules about healthy eating. But could that advice, the advice we all thought was right, have been fundamentally wrong? Could it have accidentally led us down the very path we were so desperate to avoid?
All right, let's just get right to it. Here's the core argument, and it's a big one. The whole low-fat diet craze, the one that took over everything for decades, the claim is that it didn't just fail to make us healthier, it actually played a part in the explosion of diseases like dementia. It's a shocking idea, I know.
So, how on earth did we get here? Well, to figure that out, we have to go back. We need to look at the last 50 years, a time when our whole approach to food took a really dramatic, and maybe a really wrong turn.
And this is huge. In 2026, after 50 years, health authorities in the US are set to completely reverse the old rules that made us all terrified of fat. The era of the low-fat diet, it's officially coming to an end.
And this timeline just lays it all out. Back in the 70s, the war on fat kicked off. We were all told to cut out the saturated fat. So what happened over the next 50 years? Well, look at the data. Obesity, diabetes, dementia, they didn't go down, they skyrocketed. The correlation is just so hard to ignore that now the officials are finally changing their tune.
All of this has led to a whole new way of thinking about the disease itself. A lot of scientists are now calling dementia type 3 diabetes. And why is that? Well, think about it. It's a state where the brain gets so overwhelmed with sugar that it becomes insulin resistant. It just can't use glucose for energy anymore. So the brain cells, they're literally starving to death.
Okay, so this brings us to a really basic truth about our brains. If a high-carb diet is basically starving it, then what does it actually want? What's it made of, and what's its best fuel? The answer? Well, it might surprise you. Get this. Your brain is only a tiny part of your body weight, right? But it's an energy monster. It uses up over 20% of all the energy you consume in a day. It is, by far, the most demanding organ you have. So yeah, what you feed it, it matters a lot. So let's look at what our brain is physically made of. If you take out all the water, a massive 70% of what's left is fat. Your brain is essentially a beautiful, brilliant organ made of fat. That's not an opinion, that's just biology. And we're not talking about just any old fat. The brain needs specific kinds. It needs those omega-3s you hear about. It needs things called phospholipids to build its cell walls. And yep, it absolutely needs cholesterol, the very thing we were told to avoid like the plague. About a quarter of all the cholesterol in your entire body is right up in your brain, where it's totally essential for keeping your brain cells working.
So if the brain is made of fat, what does it like to run on? Well, it can use glucose from carbs. That's kind of like its standard, regular unleaded fuel. But it has another option, a much cleaner, more efficient fuel source, ketones. And your body makes ketones from fat. So think of it like this. Glucose is regular gas, but ketones, that's the high-octane premium stuff for your brain. But why? Why is our brain designed to work this way? To really get it, we have to zoom out. Way, way out. We have to look at our own evolutionary blueprint and ask a simple question. What are human bodies actually built to eat?
This timeline really puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? For 2.5 million years, that's pretty much all of human history. We were hunters and gatherers. Our bodies, our DNA, it was all programmed on a diet of meat and animal fat. Then, just 10,000 years ago, which is like a blink of an eye in evolutionary terms, farming started, and suddenly our diets were flooded with grains and carbs.
And that created a huge mismatch. We're walking around with ancient hardware, our DNA, that's optimized to run on fat and protein. But for the last few moments of our history, we've been trying to run that hardware on a brand new operating system made of carbs. Is it any wonder our bodies are struggling to keep up?
But here's the thing. This is the really hopeful part of the story. You are not stuck. Your body is constantly rebuilding itself. Your cells, your tissues, they're always being replaced. That means you have the power, right now, with your very next meal, to start building a newer, healthier body and a sharper, better brain.
So how do we do it? How do we take all this information and actually turn it into action? How do you start a revolution right there on your dinner plate to protect your brain starting today?
I mean, we've all heard that saying a million times, right? You are what you eat. But let's really think about what it means. It's the literal truth. The food you put into your mouth becomes the raw material for every single cell in your body. And that includes your brain cells. If you want to change your health, you've got to start by changing the ingredients you give your body.
And the plan is actually incredibly simple. It's 2 steps. First, you stop. You stop eating the foods that are hurting your brain. We're talking about rice, bread, pasta, and sugar. Those have got to go. Then step 2, fill. You fill your plate with the very things your brain is made of. We're talking butter, eggs, good quality meat, fatty fish. You feed your brain exactly what it's been asking for.
So, what happens when you make that change? Well, the results can be amazing. Those afternoon energy slumps? Gone. That constant brain fog you thought was normal? It lifts. You start to feel sharper, clearer, and you can maintain that clarity as you get older. And the big one? You seriously lower the risk of your brain starving itself into dementia.
This should be your new mantra. Every single meal is a choice. It's not about what you're giving up, it's about what you're building. What you eat for lunch today is literally the building material for the brain you're going to have tomorrow and next year and for the rest of your life.
So that 50-year experiment with low-fat diets is ending. The science is pointing in a new direction, and now the choice is in your hands. So looking at your very next meal, what are you going to choose to build your brain with?